Santo man kolnyang Mike chol garangawan Juba luping yarul pandiri shaj manyel anake ton nyel jilo wone tona dol Ingulo diyor adenge kik kega buka gadebo I think it keep Kegabuka Gadebo by Anyalia dear Kuika Pingrin Gemanalia when I jang wrong I do Kegabarandi Madina Majaku Lamakur Kegabali again who I that Wagari Kegela Emmanuel when a man I think it keep Kegabuka
Thank you so much to our viewers, wherever you are tuning in. Welcome to Lagos State Media Beyond Boundaries. On this day, the 1st of February, 2023, we have our usual guest, one of the prominent activists, Mr. Edmund Yakani, who is the CEO of SEPO. And Edmund Yakani today will dissect the visits of Pope to South Sudan. As most of South Sudanese are aware, not only South Sudan, the entire continent of Africa and the entire world is focused nowadays is on the two countries, the Democratic Republic of Congo and South Sudan, in regard to the visit of Pope. Whether the visit of Pope will change the political atmosphere of these two countries that has really been set on paradoxical mood for the last few years or seen independence. Congo has never been in peace since 1963 and South Sudan since 2013. And the Pope visits seem across the world as a spiritual visit, and it might change the political trajectory of our leaders or shape their political ideologies for that regard. Permit me, our audience, to request you one more, share this live show on your Facebook wall so that many South Sudanese will join us with my brother Edmund Yakani while he will be dissecting the ideas and the aspirations and perceptions of South Sudanese and preparation at once in reception of Pope. Up to this juncture, Mr. Edmund Yakani, welcome to Lagos State Media Beyond Boundaries, my brother. Give us your opening remark before we dive into our conversation of today. And to remind our audience, we will not take long. We understand if you join us live from Juba, we know MTN also is not sleeping. And we request MTN to give you free MBs as an honor of our Pope visit for this time, at least to join us live. We'll be here strictly 45 minutes and end our interview. Edmund Yakani, give us your opening remark, then we get into our conversation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think it's a pleasure after a long time to be with you. And of course, as you said, South Sudan is preparing to receive Pope in the next 2 days. So we'll see Pope in Juba. And of course, the visit is in line of his promise after he kissed the feet of our leaders, where his aim or ambition is to see South Sudan to be a peaceful and a stable state. So the becoming Pope and the Archbishop of Canterbury and the moderator of the General Assembly of the Church of Scotland. So Juba is prepared. We have seen new roads, at least which that every day should be visit of Pope, so that at least the tarmac roads will overtake the town of Juba and see Juba as a new city. So that would be my opening remark. So let's dive. As I said, time is a bit limited, and there's another commitment before me. So we may have another 45 minutes or 30 minutes, and then we can pick up what responses can come. But otherwise, let God bless South Sudan with the visit of Pope, and let God keep South Sudan to become a peaceful and stable as Pope come with blessing together with Archbishop of Canterbury and the moderator of the General Assembly of the Church of Scotland. Thank you. Over there.
Thank you so much, Mr. Edmund Yakani. Yeah, Edmund Yakani, you put it correctly that the preparation is on, but our first question will be, can you brief the public, especially the diaspora community of our country, about the preparation so far? How far is it with the preparation from the government side and from the citizens of our country in welcoming our Pope?
From the government side, they were able to demonstrate a bit of commitment in rehabilitating some roads and fixing some roads with tarmac, and one of the roads from Kololo through U.S. Embassy down to Tomping towards the Catholic University. From there, you cross to the airport, exit of the President, where Yam Hotel is. That is named as a Pope Francis Road, and was opened by the President, and alongside the first Vice President and other Vice President. Freedom Square, that's Gereng Mausoleum, it has been lightening. There's development going on, so we can see, and they have declared some roads are going to be closed that day, and Customs Market is going to be closed as an indicator, and you can see beef up of security. The government shows a bit of readiness to receive Pope, and we see statements coming out calling citizens to come. While the citizens in Juba, of course, citizens are at the center of the visit, there's not much, but you can see from states, people are coming. As we are aware that some are coming on using the tarmac roads, some are using the hard roads. Group from Lakes have already in the site of Terekeka on their way coming. Wow, delegation have arrived to Juba. So there's flying in of delegations coming from states to Juba. So St. Joseph Church is full of delegates that come from the states. So that shows citizen preparation outside Juba. Citizens in Juba are all talking about it. And the streets of Juba is today saying that's a good opportunity. What will our leaders say after their feet were kissed? And still they have deficit in trust and confidence. So everybody say this is a very good political pressure and exposure for our leaders to show the global community that if really they're for peace and if they're ready for peace and stability. So it's an evaluation of the keys of the Pope. And the beauty of it is that the evaluation is done in the front of the eyes of South Sudanese. The question is, will our leaders anymore lie about their political commitment to make peace and stability realized? And as you're aware, since 2019, if you count from 2019 until now, 4 years, what have they made as a difference of the case of the Pope? And of course, the argument whether this visit will change the environment or not. Obviously, from my side, I feel, yes, it may not make a big difference, but it will have a very good blow on checking the leadership, if whether they're already committed to see that under their leadership, South Sudan is peaceful and stable. That is the pressure that the visit of Pope is bringing to the streets of Juba, and citizens across the country are all happy. They want to see this exposure of our leaders before the international community in front of them with regard to the agenda of peace and stability. Thank you over there.
Thank you so much, Mr. Edmund Yakani, for that. And we really appreciate the preparation level on our government side, at least to give Pope decent reception. And since this is the first visit of Pope to South Sudan since the creation of WAL, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, Mr. Edmund Yakani, can you give us your thoughts exactly? What are the expectations of our political leaders and the citizens of our country in regard to the Pope visit in our country? What do they expect to hear from Pope? And what message do they expect really that will actually change their mindset and give peace to their heart? Thank you. Unmute yourself.
Yes. I think what I will say in regard to what you have mentioned, the expectation are all towards, will this visit make peace and stability prevail? Will this visit lift the suffering of the people of South Sudan from the ongoing violence? So that is a common questions people are looking at. But obviously, the streets of Juba are much more concerned about the exposure of, in particular, His Excellency President and First Vice President because people have been seeing a high deficit of trust and confidence among them, though they try to implement the revitalized peace agreement. And we have had several forgiveness that comes in a public events, but people want to see how this forgiveness is translated into reality. Actually, even some are proposing that the visit of the Pope and the Archbishop of Canterbury and the Bishop and the moderator of General Assembly of Church of Scotland to actually impose handshaking, that they should shake hands. And I heard of one of the radio station citizens was saying the handshaking must be negotiated like the one of Kenya between Raila and Uhuru, that at least the visit of the Pope must create a handshake between Salva and Riek, because people believe that the deficit in trust between the two have held the country hostage to violence and to no positive change of development. So that's a preparation of the streets of Juba that people are questioning. But if you measure the percentage between those who are optimistic and those who are pessimistic, I will tell you there's a huge doubt of whether this visit will create a big political change. And I think for me, the challenge is not real to Pope's visit and to anybody. The challenge is to our political leaders, and in particular, His Excellency President and First Vice President. Can they demonstrate a change of political attitudes? And of course, even if they demonstrate that by their speeches, but the question comes, when Pope left, will the situation change? Will the implementation of the last agreement be going smoothly? Will there be a commitment to run peace process where we don't shift goalposts? But at the same time, I also like to say it's not only a challenge to the incumbent government in personality of His Excellency President and First Vice President, even opposition who are not in Juba, who are holdout groups, they're also under challenge in terms of shift of goalposts. And already we have seen doubt from opposition that the visit of the Pope, they don't think it will make a difference, and they don't think that even the resumption of Rome peace process will make a difference. These are all political pressure that the visit of the Pope brings, and citizens are very happy that political elites who have been dilly-dallying too much around the pathway to peace and stability, at least now, with the visit of Pope and the Archbishop of Canterbury and the moderator of Scotland, which are three top religious leaders who are Christians, and we claim by then when we're fighting for independence to be Christians, so our Christianity is under test. And the test of our Christianity is through the fashion of the leadership that our leaders have. With regard to African concept that always you must be assessed as a leader of how much stability and peace you have created when you're not when you're in power, and when you're left, people will assess that. So I think that's the preparation for the citizens. And of course, this also open a civic space, the visit of the Pope. People take advantage of the visit of the Pope to echo whatever is in their hearts, in their minds, and to release them out. And after Pope left, and then they're going to shut down a bit of their mouths and all this. So I think it's an opportunity. It's a big political opportunity that our leaders are going to get it a bit harder. And my fear is that what message will our leaders deceive? Will they deliver? Because any message they will deliver, will it be the walk of the talk of the value of the case of Pope? Or is it just a mere statement that like what I've had? Because I remember I was in a focus group discussion today in one of the groups that were assessing the meaning of the case of Pope on the feet of our leaders. What does it mean to the members of the focus group discussion? They were telling us, look here, beyond the case, what else is very important? And it's the first time in Christian history that a such leader kissed the feet of political figures in a republic like South Sudan, which is newly born republic through struggle of defending Christianity. But now, 4 years, we have not seen any political change attitudes. So that is the level of the pressure that our leaders, I'm quite sure those who are writing speeches, they're looking for words that will sound good in front of the Pope, that, so we have delivered, we have implemented, we have scored, we have registered. Those are the words they're looking in the speeches that they're going to deliver. But the question is, so the reality, why you can't redeploy unified forces, and why still subnational violence is scaling in a big scale that is claiming lives of innocent people. And of course, this practice of adopting children and women in Jongola, in some parts of Upper Nile, where Chulu community recently raised, is another top issue that Pope may condemn it as a slavery, as a human trafficking. And our leaders are going to be questioned, what responsibility are they undertaking to stop that? So that is the atmosphere, and that is the direction where citizens wish to see. And of course, citizens want to see whether Pope will tell our leaders that, look here, you must take responsibility to work towards a peaceful and successful, credible election as an instrument of peaceful and honorable transfer of power to a new generation. So those are the messages in the streets of Juba.
Thank you, Mr. Edmund Yakani, for giving us such expectation from political leaders to the citizens of our country. You said very important point there that our Christianity is being tested by the Pope visit. Indeed, we are actually in the current examination mood. It's like students sitting in exams, and then you expect your teacher to come and actually give you your mark. President Kiir, with these Pope visits, will give him marked or less marked in regard to the peace implementation. The last question, the second question, Mr. Edmund Yakani, is about will Pope visit to South Sudan change anything, considering the Pope kissed their feet and down the line 4 years later, no much transformation that has been done in regard to the agreement. It was this last week when SPLM-IO officials were actually announced and sworn in. And these people were said to have been selected or has been appointed by the IO and disposed them to the office of president for the last 4 months, and no announcement was made. Kindly, can you give us your analysis on that? Pope now is in Congo, the neighboring to South Sudan. And our leaders, some of them maybe, are monitoring the move and the message Pope is delivering to the people of Congo. And currently, we have crisis in Upper Nile region, in Equatoria, in Bahr el Ghazal region. And we are now, the government is now shifted its focus to the reception of Pope. Will it change South Sudan politically, internationally, when it comes to the foreign relation? Will Westerners look South Sudan differently with a different lens, apart from how they view us before? Now the Pope is coming to the country. Will it renew the energy within our leaders to reimpose more energy into the implementation of the agreement? Thank you.
You know, one of the outcomes that we have seen as a pressure of Pope's visit is lifting the suspension of the Rome peace process. As remember, one time I think we spoke over this platform when I said the speech of the close of the year of the president for year 2022 has acknowledged Pope's visit to South Sudan, but at the same time have offered a slap on the face of the Pope when he's visiting, when the Rome peace process was suspended, which are actual product of the kiss of Pope on the feet of our leaders, where the community of St. Gideon were tasked to moderate a mediation between the incumbent government and the whole ARP groups. So that speech, by then, as I mentioned in one of our talk show in this platform, I say that's a contradictory, and I don't know who wrote the speech of the president. And of course, when Pope is really on the way coming to Congo, then the president issued an order of lifting the suspension of the Rome peace process. We may see such actions of what you call fire brigade to show good face. So as you said, the appointment is one of them. We may see a lot of decrees today, tomorrow, for showing a good face of indication of a commitment or demonstration of political will and political commitment towards the aim of the visit of the Pope, which is really making sure that political leaders are doing all their level best to secure peace and stability in the country. So that will be a bit of the changes that we'll see. But these changes are short-term, because the real change we need to see in South Sudan, if we want to attain peace and stability, it's a real change of political attitudes, demonstration of political maturity. Our political elites, wherever they belong to, most of them, they claim to be speaking for democratic transformation. And under this principle of democratic transformation, we need to fight corruption, we need to see democratic. But some of them, we have already seen them before they could call that. They have been in public offices, and we have a track record of who they are, whether they're clean or they're not clean, who claim to today they're clean. And even those who are in the system right now as we speak, I'm worried of us having what we call Pope visit saga. If we're to do audits after Pope's visit, we may see saga in public funds because we're used to that. Any public event like that one, sagas are always attached. When we have LC sagas, when we have the, what do you call, the crisis management committee, there was a saga attached to. So everything have a saga. I'm quite sure this visit of Pope, the tarmac roads we have seen, if we're to go for audits, we may see saga. So the change is not the fire brigade decrease. The change is a real change of political attitudes and demonstration of political maturity, whether the incumbent political leaders or even the political leaders in the opposition, whether you name them hold-out groups or others who may not be part of hold-out groups, is that political maturity is needed. So the vision of the Pope is not going to cultivate political maturity and political commitment in 2 days or 3 days' time. We're going to see whether after the visit of Pope, there that change. And there's maybe 2 events that will demonstrate that from the parties. One event is the implementation of the remaining task of the revitalized peace agreement within the extended period of 24 months. And in front of our leaders, 2 critical exercises that they have to demonstrate. Those who are in the incumbent government right now. One is redeployment of the graduated unified forces, why they for long not been redeployed, but at the same time, rolling out of phase 2 of the unification of the forces. And we have seen cities, I'm saying there's a lack of food in the cantonment site, but we have not seen a lack of fund for fixing Pope Francis Road. So now the question is, is building Pope Francis Road more important than committing yourself to unify the forces for long-term impact? Because Pope Francis is coming, you can name any road. But we have a quick money for fixing Pope Francis Road, but we have no money to bringing food to the cantonment sites for phase 2 of the unification of the forces. That's one exercise. 2, reconstitution of the political institutions that are very important with the political transformation. What are they? The Political Parties Council for the registration of political parties to undertake political milestone, namely constitutional making process and elections. And then the reconstitution of the National Election Review Commission to undertake the constitutional process that are already declared by the president in his close of year speech of 2022, and Council of Ministers have approved the extension of the timeline for the constitutional making process, where they have instructed the Constitutional Drafting Committee to undertake its work. But the Constitutional Drafting Committee is not yet established or formed throughout the parties and representation of other stakeholders. 3, reconstitution of the National Election Commission, because if we're to have election in December, then these elections, we need to undertake certain milestones. And per the electoral calendar, 1 year is not enough. You need to do the proper work in this particular period of 18 months from now if you want to really succeed with elections in December 2024. And remember, these elections are sanctioned. What are they sanctioned with? They are sanctioned with permanent constitution. They are sanctioned with population census. His speech of the president also have alluded to these sanctions. And we have seen already the Council of Ministers at their last Friday meeting saying the constitution must be ready by February 2024. While after that, 10 months, we're going for elections. So the question of interpretation of the constitutional provisions. So these are all milestones for the incumbent to be tested. While if you go to the incumbent and the hold-out groups under the Rome Peace process, is demonstration of political maturity in the Rome Peace process. The incumbent have a game of shifting the goalpost from time to time against the hold-out groups, but also the hold-out groups have the same game of shifting goalpost from time to time against the incumbent. So these behaviors of shifting political goalpost in the Rome Peace processes
An apology to our viewers for the interruptions. It seems our guest, as internet connections challenge, and that's why he frozen, and he will join us once more. As we are waiting for our guest to return to the studio, and we are left with 11 minutes and 2 questions to close our show. I would ask my co-host, Abraham Adit, to display some of the pictures of John Grant Museum, how ready John Grant Museum is now and the preparations that is ongoing in regard to the Pope reception. Mr. Abramadit?
Yes. Can you send them very quick to me? I don't have them with me here on my desktop.
All right, let me.
So, guys, while we're waiting for our guests to return, let us very quick. And for those of you who have a question regarding, let me bring one of the guy up here. So, we will, yes, of course. So while we're waiting for Yakani, Usas, welcome. So you want to add something before we proceed it with our guests?
Thank you, Mehdi, and thank you for the late media, and also I greet our guest, Edmund Yakani. I listened to him regarding the visit of the popes. You know, if I can recall, I think in February 10, 1993, we had the historical the late John Pope visit Sudan. And I think it was very significant by that time because of the crisis that was in Sudan during the civil war and suffering of the Christian in Sudan in the Islamic regime.
Sorry.
Okay. Okay, it's good. So, yeah, go ahead. Okay, our guest is attend. Go ahead, please, your thought.
So he's welcoming less than in Khartoum in South Sudan. It was not only welcoming by only Christian, but it was for the whole the Sudanese people, including Muslim and other religions. And I think his message was very powerful in delivering that God does not know who is Christian and who is Muslim. God respects us all. And humanity, we share the same God that we worship. And I think his message changed a lot of perspective of some Muslims toward Christians and toward love and towards peace in the country. And it was very significant by that time. Today we are witnessing also the visit of the Pope Francis coming to our country, and choose two countries who have actually the political turmoil. The Congo has been in the conflict in 1963, and South Sudan also facing the same problems, and they are Christian countries. So the Pope coming now is different from the previous. Previous were complaining about being abused by Muslim, by the country that want everybody to be Muslims, and freedom of religion was the big problems by that time. But today we have political problems in our country. So his visit is going to be significant, especially involving the Rome talks with the all-out groups. And then also the Catholic Church has been a part of our struggle in South Sudan, whether from 1955, peace agreement 1972, or even during the SPLA, the Catholic Church has been supporting the people of South Sudan for many years historically. So I think his message also coming this time is a message of peace, and I think it will make a difference for those who think that will not make a difference. Will make a difference in time of the issue that facing our country. There is a flood also in the country due to the climate change and food shortage, and the challenges that are facing our country, including the education system. The Catholic Church is known of how we contribute when it comes to education. So we are hoping that they will touch those bases, how they can support the education in the country, and what Catholic can do to mobilize the resources also for the peace building and nation building in terms of the helping and is bringing blessing to our country. And it's God who is looking. We cannot make a peace without the God present. So I really I agree with Edmund and his comments that we look the visit of the Pope as a game change, especially for the leaders. Give hope. We have to have a hope always. Give hope for the better South Sudan that we can see ahead. That's what I can add, but I can yell back because the minutes are running out for our guests to conclude his statement. Thank you.
Thank you, Comrade Manuel. All right, we will give microphone back to Joke.
Yeah, thank you so much, Manon, for your input. And actually, your thoughts are in line with Edmund Yakani perspective on how Pope visit to South Sudan will change our political landscape so that we can see a better South Sudan before we go into election. Yeah, Mr. Edmund Yakani, you were on the importance of Pope visit to our country, whether it will change the political trajectory, and also will it give like a good outlook from international community? Remember, the Troika and other international communities have been looking South Sudan with a different lens. Now, will it change their mindset and perspective that now South Sudan is on the journey toward realizing the permanent peace in the country, of everlasting peace in South Sudan? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. As you said, I'm on that trend. If you see, to be honest with you, the change of political trajectory or the change of political direction, or what do you call political shift from this negativity to a bit positive situation linked with the visit of the Pope, is so much depending on two people, really, honestly. It's depending on His Excellency President and First Vice President, because they are the two principals that are being sort of like entrusted by the agreement. Their names have been mentioned there. The other vice presidents have no big role to do with the political decision. And since the two are having the armed wing, if you see prior to the visit of the Pope, there's already a shift of international community view towards South Sudan. If you see, already messages are coming very clear from US that, but then it's a bit hesitant about the agreement, say, we're going to support the peace process. If you see the US ambassador in Juba, Michael, that's the direction they have taken. So sending signal, because I think they might have sense. And if you follow the Pope's message in DRC, he have heavily attacked the international community yesterday. He really landed on the international community for playing a double standard game. I'm quite sure that one is going to be an opportunity for South Sudan government if they can demonstrate political attitudes. That will attract the international to come back to South Sudan, because I'm quite sure one of the key outcome of Post message is to tell international community, don't leave South Sudan alone. Stand with them and be together with them and continue the hardship and the journey together with them. But that will motivate the international community, specifically the foreign relation institutions or the political foreign relation institutions, is when the principles, which is in particular His Excellency President and First Vice President, can demonstrate a change of political attitudes and a change of language. And if they can show a good gesture before the Pope, one of the things I want to see if they can do is really a proper handshake. If they can shake hands as a gesture before these three Christian religious leaders, and they ask the South Sudanese religious leaders, as my brother have said, I'm not using Christianity, both Muslims and even the Muslims have already raised a billboard of why they're supporting the coming of the Pope. The South Sudan Islamic Council, they have stand behind the coming of the Pope and the Archbishop of Canterbury and the moderator of the General Assembly of Church of Scotland. So if the two principals can take responsibility, say, look here, enough is enough. Since our deficit in trust and confidence have held the country hostage, we are starting a new chapter. And now our religious leaders will undertake the follow-up of that gesture. That way you can attract the international community. And the first thing is I share with you is the language of the US government towards the peace agreement. That's one thing tells you clear the pressure Pope is bringing and the benefit Pope is bringing along with it. And if you see the request for the support of the elections, and if you see the positive response, UN have responded, EU have responded. They're ready to support the elections. And of course, election is the only non-violent and peaceful political exit strategy for power change. the barrel of the gun is not beneficial for us. So it's also how much will the principal tell before Pope that from today we will never interfere with the civic and political space, and will allow people to express their views and people to express their opinion, and let people decide through the ballot box on who is going to be the leader that they want to lead this country. And that goes with one of the questions which pop up in the screen. The two principles have to allow other political parties to exist. This culture of only SPLM and SPLM-IO dominating the political arena in terms of political space, it is undemocratic practice. Is leave every group of individuals with their political color to enjoy the political space as you're enjoying. So if we decided to say you must have a military wing to enjoy the political space, that's a wrong demonstration. So it's a question of the president and the first vice president, who are main custodian of the revitalized peace agreement, to demonstrate change of political attitudes. That may attract the international community, but also the constitutional making process is one of the milestones international are going to test the shift of political attitudes, the demonstration of political maturity and political will in terms of supporting a successful, non-violent and peaceful transition of South Sudan from the current situation where violence is dominant to a peaceful and relative peace. And as you see, so that we have been facing in the sub-national and the state level, the violence going on. So those are the things that if our leaders can demonstrate, can attract. Remember, you have over 200 international media houses, journalists in Juba. And with the history we have, what are the history? Subnational violence, women and children being abducted, which is slavery and human trafficking. Humanitarian workers who have been attacked, and we have seen quite a number of statements coming out of the humanitarian. Journalists have been detained. And actually, one of the things I'm going to say is that the detained SSBC journalists are going to open a new trend around that particular agenda, which we thought we could have been silenced by not detaining the SSBC journalists. With the coming of these 200 journalists, all of them are not coming for one angle. They're not coming for the angle of the Pope visit. Some are coming for the angle of transparency. Some are coming for the angle of where is the resources being used. Some are using this space because some of the journalists may not have a chance to get a chance of coming to Sudan, but under the cover of the umbrella of the Pope, they can pop in. But the reports they will work out in the 2 days. Imagine you are one of the newest born state with a big international support. 2 years after your independence, you break the war. Some journalists want to come, they couldn't find a space of where they can find freedom. Now, in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, amen. Religious leaders are visiting Juba, that's opportunity. 200 media houses. They're going not to report on one angle, they're going to report several angles. So after the visit report, we're going to get a lot of reports that is going to pop up and is going to hit our leaders. The only opportunity our leaders can minimize those harmful reports is if they can demonstrate a political shift in the arena. What is it? I wish before Pope arrive, reconstitute the required institutions. Before Pope arrive, allow political parties and open up the civic space. Before Pope arrive, say, and remember, there's an opportunity here. If I'm to be a political analyst, or if I'm to help the example like president, in his close of the year, he declared year 2023 as a year of forgiveness, reconciliation, development. Immediately, whoever is under detention politically, release them before Pope arrives, so that you can use them as a cut. You say, look here, we have disagreed, but because of the spiritual power you're bringing together with the power of the Holy Spirit as a Christians, we are free any political detainee, including the journalists. We have forgiven them because it's a year of forgiveness and reconciliation. We have forgive them, let them come out, and we have freedom, and you can speak to them. That's so we need to demonstrate gestures that shows a shift of political attitudes, but not only for the 3 days of visit of the Pope. It should be a shift of political attitudes for the next 24 months until we have free and fair elections where citizens through the ballot box will choose who will be their leader. Because for me, those are the things that we're expecting from the Pope's visit, and that's really critical challenge towards our leaders. And some journalists are going to ask, for example, some are going to ask this question: why you are unable to redeploy the graduated unified forces? Why are you unable to provide salaries for your civil servants? But in 2 or 3 days, you're able to create a tarmac road and name in the name of Pope. So should the Pope visit the cantonment site and training site so that you deploy the forces before he visit them? That's some of the questions that are going to come up. Because it seems the role of Pope is more important than the agenda of peace and stability in the country. Some of journalists are going to focus on that. And some are going to assess how much has been spent on the road and what that would have meant to the implementation of the peace agreement. So those are all questions that are going to come up. But these will be sorted out if President can deliver a speech of a political shift of direction, of attitudes. That will help. And that will not be so much reported.
Yeah, before you end that point, Mr. Edmund Yakani, I have a follow-up question in that regard with what you mentioned, that our government was so much active when it comes to renovation of Pope Road and rename the road after the Pope to honor him, and they have been reluctant for 4 years without graduating unified forces rather and redeploy them. Does it mean, Mr. Edmund Yakani, that South Sudan should move in that direction of pleasing the visitors and not making what it meant to be as independent nation? Citizens currently may be happy for these 2 to 3 days of Pope visit, but after Pope visit, what will maintain their happiness? What will maintain their peace and love among themselves? After all, Pope is, people are seeing Pope now as a second Christ coming to South Sudan. But if you prepare your outside look, like you dress nicely, without changing your inner being, like your heart and your mind, will that spirit really land it on your mind and your heart? Thank you.
Yes, of course. As I said, is the assessment of the impact of Pope is real after when Pope left Juba, after his visit. That's what people are going to assess, the impact of the Pope's visit. Because when the guests come to the house, it's easy for you to bring the cakes and the sweets. But the question comes is, will that stability of the cakes and sweets in the house remain after your visitors has gone? That's a big challenge towards our leaders, because I hope, for me really, I hope, to be honest, I'm an activist. I've been in the front line of this peace agreement and the political calls for stability. Our main problem is not the visit of Pope. Our main problem is that our political elites should leave out their personal grievances that they have accumulated since 1983 until today. They need to leave that. And they need to take responsibility of saying, you know, as a leader, as a nationalist, if our deficit in trust and confidence is keeping you hostage, we would like to take opportunity by saying we want to give the opportunity to new phases, to a new direction, or we're taking a new decision under our leadership and walk you away from these hardships and hand you over to a destiny where peace and stability is prevailing. So that is a test. And that's why the speech, as I speak today, the speech that's going to be delivered by President in front of the Pope, in front of the citizen, is going to be one of the hardest speech in his life of leadership. I will tell you, it's going to be the hardest. Why is the hardest? Your shoes were kissed. 4 years challenge. Now I'm at home after kissing your feet in my own house. I'm the visitor. You create for me a tarmac road and you name in my name. Is that the interpretation of the kiss? Obviously, it's a fire brigade interpretation of the kiss. It's the same thing to Dr. Riak as his excellency as the first vice president. Because the first vice president is going to face it. Is as equal as to other excellencies vice presidents. Wani Iga, Tabandeng, Abdul Bagi Ayi, and Mama Rebecca Nyandeng. If they're going to parade it, like I wish Pope could have paraded them. They stand the way they stand the Vatican and ask them, tell me what have you done personally as the impact of my case. I don't think they will have an answer. All of them is just to apologize. We are sorry, forgive us. We tried a little. We're able to graduate, but we are unable to redeploy. The international is not there with the support. The resources are there. Then the next question, how do you get the resources to fix the road in my name? So, you know, if that M&E session have to be demonstrated before the citizens, I'm quite sure some of them will say, enough is enough. We are shifting. So, but we don't want that because they are our leaders. They are the symbol of the nation. They are not there because they need to be there. They are there because of a national political processes. But what we are taking, what we are appealing to them, that they are being there, they should demonstrate a responsibility to the nation. They should demonstrate responsibility to the global community. When we say we are sovereign state, we are sovereign government, that goes together with responsibility. And one of the basic principles of any leader in responsibility is the stability and making sure safety and security of your individuals and communities is a top priority, because the rest will come automatic. Education, health, the rest, adequate service will come as long as the country is stable. People will contribute. So the challenge is now, can they do a getcha from His Excellency President, first Vice President, and other Vice President? Can they do a getcha, a national getcha, before the Pope and the Archbishop of Canterbury and the moderator of Church of Scotland, and before those 200 journalists, that yes, we might have made a mistake. Any human being is subject to make a mistake. We have learned from our mistake, and we're taking a new pathway of responsibility. We need to move, because this tendency of appreciating visitors, even today in Juba, there's a musician who are singing out in the streets. Pope, why don't you visit my house so that I get a tarmac road? Pope, why don't you visit our county so that we get a tarmac road? Pope, why don't you visit our Payam so that we get a tarmac road? Pope, why don't you go to seminary so that at least the road from Gudele to seminary is tarmac? You know, people are saying, can Pope decide to go close to my house so that I get tarmac road? Now that become a game. That become a comedian, and soon comedians are going to come out with this. So why should that be under your leadership? And you are aware that part of your leadership is to make people feel happy and feel they are secure and feel their economical status is growing under your leadership. So for me, my appeal is specifically goes to His Excellency President, First Vice President, and other Vice President, to show a miracle in the front of the Pope that we have decided as a leaders, enough is enough to violence. This is the new pathway, and assess us in the 24 months with this pathway that we have decided, and assess us with our return back to Rome peace process. The same thing goes to our opposition who are holdout groups. These attitudes of changing colors from time to time is another thing to be challenged, because after Pope's visit, they're going to be exposed also. The president will be exposed in this visit, but also the opposition are going to be exposed about political maturity. You know, peace and stability is not the use of political language, jargons. Democratic transformation, transparency is a demonstration of walking the talk as a leader. And you have seen in Congo, Pope is not sympathizing. He's hitting the nail on the head rightly. So our nail is going to be a long nail. He's going to hit several times. 2 days, you know, it's not a short nail. It's going to be a long nail, by the way. So
thank you. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Edmund Yakani. Actually, the Pope visit to these two African countries is a reminder to the international community that Democratic Republic of Congo still exists despite the violence and the crisis for a long period of time, and also reminding them that South Sudan still exists in that part of Africa. So, and that's why you see many journalists jetting into the country trying to portray these countries. And it will be the second, maybe, because many of things that have been announced internationally for these two countries always are violence and famine. People are dying of hunger and all this. But at least with the Pope visits, it will change the media reports or reporters to the world stage, that at least this is South Sudan and this is Congo. Thank you for that, Mr. Edmund. Our last question, Edmund, will Pope visit POCs, especially the IDPs camp in Jebel? Will the government allow Pope to visit that IDP camps? Thank you.
I think Pope will not visit the POC or the IDPs camp. Pope will meet them in Garang Mausoleum. And the challenge to us as South Sudanese with our attitudes, as it was declared months ago that Pope is going to meet the IDPs and maybe likely could have visited the IDPs. But as 2 weeks or about 3 days or 5 days for the Pope to start visiting Congo, revenge attacks in the POC. 1 person dead. Imagine. This is in Juba here. So Pope is coming. Pope is going to meet you. And our community is there. I don't know whether it's politically motivated. I can't really level anything. They fought among themselves. This by itself shows a very bad gesture that whether Pope will go to the POC, because if you're under revenge attack, what's the guarantee of the safety? But what I know is that Pope is going to meet the representatives of the POC in Garang's mausoleum. And of course, we're going to be part of the civil society, meeting him together with the diplomats on the 4th. And of course, our message, if we had that chance, is just to ask Pope, please, please, beg our leaders, can they allow this country to transition from the current situation to peace and stability? Because the moment we're stable, we're peaceful, even attention towards the seat of the leaders should become less, because everybody is minding of his business. Politics becomes sweet when violence takes dominance. Where violence is not dominance, nobody's interested in politics. So politics become a game of argument, a game of change when violence is at a high peak over peace. But when peace prevails, people are running with their businesses. I don't care about whatever is there. What I care is that good governance is there. But so that's the big business that we're going to deliver in our meeting with the Pope. So Pope will be meeting the POCs in Garang Mausoleum, which is unfortunate. We hope that we could have visited the IDPs, would have witnessed the situation, of course, infrastructure. And I hope if you could have insisted, I'm going to visit the POC, I'm going to visit the camp, I'm quite sure we shall see a tarmac road to the camp. You know?
Thank you for that.
But also, one thing I'd like to comment is that these 200 journalists are not only going to report negative. We're going to have positive stories from South Sudan, honestly. Like we have seen already in DRC. There's positive stories coming from DRC, beside the DRC that we know, and on all this. So there will be positive elements from South Sudan. And one of the positive elements, one thing just I was really praying that if one thing our government can do is parade our national basketball team. Let them shake hands with the Pope. People start reporting. This is one of the toughest East African region basketball team that have really done wonders besides the violence. That will become a positive story. So we have positive stories that we need to market them to balance with the negative stories that are there. But also we have people who are struggling in the country making positive stories. Business people, business community, they can shape. So it's a question of how do we shop our stories? How do we market our stories? How do we influence the attention of the journalists when they land at home with our stories? So that is the biggest challenge that also goes. And to what level, and this is another thing, to what level is our domestic media allowed to cover positive story prior to the visit of the Pope so that they can set an agenda for the international media, because international media is going to use domestic media as a baseline to zero the angle of their reports. So for me, those are the things that we need to take responsibility. And of course, I wish there will be no shrinking space from now until Pope visit, and should continue after Pope's visit, because after Pope visit, people are going to counter the environment seen during the visit of Pope, because that will become another important period. Okay, we have seen this is the way how they demonstrated the visit of Pope. Now let's wait. If Pope is not there, what next? Again, those 200 journalists is going to multiply themselves to 400 in following up after Pope left Juba. So for me, it's a shift of political direction and attitudes after Pope visit. Should be all positive.
Thank you, Edmund Yakani, for your time and for sharing your thoughts with South Sudanese in diaspora and even back at home at this time. It is actually very important for South Sudanese to discuss the coming of Pope and evaluate and see how best will it impact the whole country, politically, economically, and socially. I will yield it back to my co-host, Abraham Adit. If there are some questions under the comment section, you can display them on board. And if not, then we might have 2 or 3 questions from Clubhouse, also to give the opinions in regard to what our guest Edmund Yakani said before we end our show. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Job. I think we have come to the end, so we will not take a question at this time, because Edmund having another commitment that he's going to. So we will stop from here, and then we will come back another time. So thank you, Brother Edmund, for coming to us again. We are looking forward to see the visit of the Pope, and I hope our leaders can take a note of his visit, and hopefully they will change their mind. I know you mentioned, 4 years ago, our leaders went to Rome, and Pope kissed their feet. At this time, what will Pope do? Another round, what the leaders can do for them. So, exactly. And what I see, Brother Edmund, our leaders seem like they don't care, because even today Jesus Christ come to South Sudan, they will still ignore it if they don't take Pope seriously. So because Pope is the second Jesus. So we hope for the best that visit of Pope will open all the heart, whether the government leaders or opposition, so they can come to a conclusion, bring the lasting peace in South Sudan. So thank you so much. So
thank you. In terms of my closing remarks.
Closing remark.
Yeah, in terms of my closing remarks, honestly, as you said, it's not a visit of the Pope or it's not a visit of Jesus Christ. It's actual personal responsibility of changing our personal political attitudes and taking a political responsibility of demonstrating political maturity and commitment that we want to be seen like other successful nations. Even whatever miracle you can do, if there's no shift of political attitudes among our political leaders, that will not help. So that's one thing that I'd like to say. And I don't know if you can allow me to share that. Maybe you may need to share with your audience. The next show after the Pope's visit will be a panel where we can, quite a number of us come from Juba, and we do a panel that we need to assess the impact of the Pope's visit. But obviously, everything is depending on the political mindset of our leaders. As I said, I'm not convinced that we have politicians who care more about the peace and the stability of the country more than access to power and control of power. So whoever say we need to transform South Sudan to a democratic country, I normally like to ask that particular person, have they ever one day not been in a government office? Maybe those who have never been in government office, but 90% of our political elites have been in government offices. So if you can't show democracy and stability when you have running a small office, how comes what about the state? So for me, the whole expectation and all what we're aspiring to see is our political leaders to change their attitudes. They should take care that under my leadership, South Sudan must be peaceful and stable, regardless of whether Pope is visiting or Pope is not visiting, whether Jesus is coming or Jesus is not coming. But the benefit is that this Pope's visit is a political pressure of exposing the final political test to our leaders. After this, I don't think they're going to convince. And the challenging moment is that after this, if God help us, we're going to go for elections. The key is a political campaign instrument. The visit is a political campaign instrument. So if they want to really win the elections, they need to respect the case and the visit, and they need to change their political attitudes. As you might say, my brother, even how much we preach, how much we call, if there's no taking of responsibility and shift of political attitudes, South Sudan will remain as it is. So let God bless South Sudan, as our national anthem say, and Pope is going to listen to the national anthem, which is start with "Oh God" and close "God bless South Sudan." Pope will say, so heavenly national anthem with chaotic political leaders that are making peace and stability very hard to be realized. This is a big challenge. I'm quite sure Pope may comment about the national anthem, the way how our national anthem is linked to faith and to responsibility of peace and stability. It may challenge some of these leaders when the religious leaders listen to the national anthem and see the leaders standing strongly and holding their chests. Oh, God bless South Sudan. So that's a test. Christianity is now the final test for our political leaders, where they can allow peace and stability to prevail. And if we're going to go to the cross, as the Christianity says, we're going to answer it individually anyway, but it's up to our responsibility. So let God bless us, and let God bless Lex Media. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brother Edmund Yakani, for your closing remark and for your time. As Leg State Media, we don't take it for granted. Whoever that always allotted to us his time or our time to come and talk to South Sudanese, we always appreciate that. To our viewers on Facebook and on Clubhouse, we wish you peace, love, and unity in this period of Pope visit. And we wish South Sudanese peaceful reorganization while you are looking forward to receive Pope Francis within the next 2 days or 1 day rather. Thank you so much. May God bless South Sudan, and may God bless our continent, Africa. Thank you so much.
We Santo Man Kolnyang Mike Cholgrangawan Yubit Luping Yarul Pandiri Shet Maniel Anaketon Niel Jilo when it tornado. I think a kick a book a god by Anyalia dear Kuika Pingrin.
Jemanalie, when I jang along, I jedu Kagaparandi. I didn't maja Kubo, the Makur Kagaboli again, who I got young. Wagaridin, Kagalang, Emmanuel, when you go.
I think a kick a book a god by Anyalia dear Kuika Pingrin.
Jemanalie, when I jang along, I jedu Kagaparandi. I didn't maja Kubo, the Makur Kagaboli again, who I got young. Wagaridin, Kagalang, Emmanuel, when the man you go.
I think a kick a book a god by Anyalia dear Kuika.